There he goes. Come on, up a bit more, up a bit more. Hello, come on. Show your pretty face. Yes, come on. No. Come on and show your pretty face. No, no, nobody can see you over there. I'm trying to, here. No, 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 look this way. No, 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 I can't get you to go in the right direction. Come on. Enzo, I want everybody to see what a pretty boy you are. Come on. My dog is sitting because he thinks he needs to sit to get a treat, but I just wanted you to see his pretty face. Yes, because he was coming in here to talk to me. Yeah. Sorry. Good evening. Bonsoir. Koi. Dia Agwina Ushla. Boy, am I exhausted. Sorry, and I have not had a chance to check in with all the wonderful people I'm following on Substack, not to mind all the other things I have to do in the course of a day. But the people I am following include uh, Silly Blue, and Charlie Angus, The Resistance, and Cole of Note Cole, and The Crucial Years, and Dean Blundell, who's all over the place, and The Dworkin Report. Love Scott Dworkin and that lady Jess, were her other name, and Mary Trump, wonderful woman. Tom Hartman, Hart's blog, How to Survive the Monarchy. Love Carl Caldwalder. Walter Ryan, I'd rather be writing. The iconic, wonderful Margaret Atwood in the writing borough, who I haven't had a chance to check to see what she's doing lately. Krasencast, who are busy fighting Trump 2.0, and thank you for that. Wonderful Professor Heather Cox Richardson, who got me into Substack in the first place. Letters from an American. Wonderful, wonderful, brilliant, patriotic, lovely woman. And Micheál O'Sullivan. And I highly recommend Micheál O'Sullivan to all of you. Micheál is a magnificent Irish poet, musician, philosopher, everything. Wonderful. Go and visit Micheál O'Sullivan's Substack. And Micheál is spelled Miche, A Father L, O Father, and Sullivan, Suilleabh, A Father In, which is the Irish for Solomon, and it actually means one eye, because Sul is your eye. Okay, Sullivan, and then and then we have how many others? Oh yes, Chandra, who I still plan to call, and so on, who very kindly gave me her email and phone number. And Chandra, I'm planning to call you tomorrow or Friday. Yeah. And she writes A Civil Rights Power Couple, Black Cloud 6 Unscripted. I have to see what he thinks of the NATO stuff and the budget and this. Rachel Gilmore, the magnificent Canadian on Bubble Pop, and Lloyd, who I left out the first time, I think Carbon Upfront, who's doing all sorts of wonderful reviews on what we really need to be doing to save the planet. And who else are there? Robert Craic, fantastic American, what is he? Economist, author, teacher, a very good person, and who's busy along with a lot of others dealing with the as part of the American resistance to Stalin, Trump, and the goons. Good Lord. And then there is the wonderful Thinking About by Timothy Schneider, who wrote On Tyranny. And I think that was published in 2017, and I haven't seen it yet, but I love all the recommendations and people do readings from it, and it's on my to-do list to get this book. But there's so many great books at the moment. Every time I turn on CBC, I hear another program where they're interviewing authors about books, and they're all fascinating. Or there's competitions about books or whatever. And years ago there was a T-shirt that said something, but you couldn't read all the books, and I just think that's not possible. God, it is terribly possible now. There's just so many books I want to read, and there's only 24 hours in a day. It's impossible. Yeah, not to mind all the stuff going on, Substack and everything. And then there's Walls and Bridges, Creating Connections in a Chaotic World, and that's a lovely Canadian PhD economist. And I have to send him some questions because he does write whole articles when people send him questions, and I have questions. And there's Chris Murphy's Substack, and I think he was saying they can't just leave Donald Trump and the goons in charge, destroying the entire science departments, Harvard, NIH, NASA, also destroying vaccines, the best, most important medical improvement in the last few centuries, and dingbats are trying to get rid of vaccines. Oh my God, Lord God. The problem is, God, I know you love everybody. That's the problem. You're fond of all these dingbats. And you expect the rest of us to sort it all out. But, it's getting a bit too much. It's just getting too interesting. You're just too creative altogether. All right. Yeah, anyway. Then there's Glenn Kirshner, who's on every night. He knows all. He's a lot of these, there are different people. He's an American lawyer, professor of law, I think, and all sorts of law, and he's explaining what all the evil, unlegal, unlawful things Donald Trump and Bondi and the dingbats are doing on a daily basis. No wonder we all have a headache. And then he got up the other day and said he was wearing his shorts because he had kind of a suit and shorts, which is the sort of thing a lot of us got into during the pandemic. And then his wife suggested they go for an ice cream. So sounds like a good woman to me. Yeah. Now, John Snipper's Substack is devoted to the whole history of all the wars involving Israel for decades. And it's probably a really good resource for everything that's going on now. Massive. But I haven't even gone near that because there's just so much happening. But I do plan, thank you. He's a Canadian who's written trying to write a history of all the different wars in that region that have gone on non-stop, probably throughout my lifetime and starting before that, and to give a really good background to what the heck is going on there. Then Pete Buttigieg's Substack. So Pete is one of these people who gives me hope for humanity. Like, he just is such a good communicator and such a good problem solver and listener. Such a good use of language. Oh my God, yes. And because at the end of the day, we have to bring all these polarized people together. And Adam Schiff. Oh, I also love Adam Schiff. Along with, I don't know if she's got a Substack. Oh yeah, now the governor of California, who's very important, and he's got all those things to deal with. God love him, Gavin. Yeah, he's on too, and I certainly want to support him along with my darling, what's her name? Jasmine Crockett. I just love her. Yeah, and then there's Truth Matters. That is a very lovely. I think he's based. Yeah, he said he was writing from the Lake District in England, and he mentioned Carol Cadwallader, and this is also great stuff. And when I had mentioned that I'm still recovering from breast cancer, even though I had most of my treatments between 2017 and 2019. He wrote very nice things. Was very kind, and thank you. I love kind people saying nice things to me. All right, so I'm back, and my name is Dr. Frances Scully, and I am an Irish Canadian, and my training and background is all in Western medicine, which is why I'm so upset, by the way, they're mistreating the vaccine people who are saints generally. Like, I thought Fauci was he's a bit like, there are people in medicine like him who are rather overly ambitious, very keen to make a big name for themselves. And he struck me as that sort of type. But so I didn't warm to him as much as I do to a lot of other vaccine people. Vaccine people tend to be terribly saintly. Like, they're very concerned about everybody and balancing risks, and like that Theresa Tam, really thoughtful. My God, the poor woman. I think she worked 20 hours a day, which is extremely dangerous, Dr. Tam. I hope you're going to take care of yourself now. I hope you're easing off So my experience is that these vaccine people tend to be like that. My friend Dr. Joanne Langley in Halifax is at Dalhousie. It's just an angel, like an angel, complete angel. And we met when we were working. Both she was doing variety fellowship, was she? Yeah, I think so. At the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, way back in the mid 1980s, and we've been friends ever since. Statue Joanne, like it is a little darling. Yeah. Okay, so the only reason I turned on my Zoom again tonight and was playing with my dog, my beautiful dog Enzo, is that I want to just make a few comments to all the people commenting here. And the comments I want to make is that I would like to see at least 5% of our. So, first of all, to all the Americans, again, I want to stress, darlings, we have all the same problems in Canada. And we actually have our own big fat bill, C5, which just was passed by our Commons without a discussion, which is pretty well gross and disgusting. Now, it's not as gross and disgusting as the Trumpian monster. Like, this is not as, this is not where, Mark Carney is not trying to kill off millions of Canadians. Definitely not. But you see already the whole planet. I personally, actually, in general, I'm a real Goldilocks. I'm a real, like, in the center, and I'm a hematologist, and we love normal ranges, and we love your hemoglobin to be in the normal range, your white cell count to be in the normal range, your platelet count to be in the normal range. Like, I love everything to be in the normal range, in the middle, in the middle, in the middle. Very boring. Yeah, and I don't like excitement, don't like chaos, don't like suffering. No, don't like any of these things. No, I like calm, and I like sort of, and I like the good things in life. I like cake. I'm trying not to eat too much now because I'm overweight and I don't get type 2 diabetes. And but I'm not into suffering at all. I love flowers, and now I don't like anything really fancy and formal either. I've never had a fancy ball gown in my entire life, and I think I'll live without one. Don't like anything uncomfortable. This, by the way, is these clothes are from a Canadian company called MI with a little apostrophe IK, and everything's made in Canada. No problems with the supply chains. No slave labor. Nobody locked up in factories and been burnt alive, and this terrible stuff. And this is bamboo, which hopefully, probably nothing is sustainable, but they hope it's sustainable. But what it is comfortable, very comfortable. I never wear anything that's not comfortable. And they do all things like it's women owned, and they try to have things for people of all sizes and shapes and ages, and they donate to good causes, and they try to do everything right. Yeah. They try to worry about the environment and worry about being inclusive and diverse, and treating everybody properly, which is what everybody should be doing, for God's sake. That is what commerce should be about. Now, meantime, I have been, trying to develop a small business, and it's not going well from a financial point of view or any point of view, really. But because I started this, I was thinking about this in 2018 and 2019, and then I was just getting started when lo and behold we had that little pandemic, which meant, because normally in Canada, wonderful country that it is, and where we are here, there's all sorts of courses and things for people who want to become entrepreneurs. And I just spoke to a beautiful lady, Karen Green, who's a navigator, and she nearly cried when she heard I'd been spending my RSPs, because then of course I have to pay taxes. So I'm losing money, spending my hours, paying taxes, and not. I don't mind paying taxes, but I'm not making any money. So I'm going to be penniless if this doesn't turn around. But so first of all, I trained to teach the 8-week compassion cultivation training meditation course through Stanford Medical School. And believe you me, that wasn't a joke, because Stanford Medical School, they take things very seriously, and very, very good course. And everything's done like really well. And we had little assignments every single week. Now it was all sort of pass fail rather than grading, thank God, because I was way off. I'm a hematologist, and here I was studying neuroscience and philosophy, and pedagogy, or yeah. So um, lots of stuff to study. And the other little problem is that all the way through this wonderful course, which for me as a Canadian was quite pricey, let me tell you, and not to mention amount of time and effort and doing it online. So the whole thing, um, the excellent faculty, and they are excellent, fantastic, every single one of them, everybody involved with this are fabulous people. But all the way through, they would tell all of us, we're delighted that you're studying about compassion and kindness. Because, by the way, this whole thing is that there's now a science of altruism, compassion, and kindness. And I'm just going to stop this for 1 minute to say that's where I would like us to spend 5% of our GDP. Now, Prime Minister Carney and all the leaders of the G7, our world is a total mess because some or other we have lost our ability to recognize people who, God love them, are stuck into what some psychologists call the four something or other negative traits. And these are narcissism, sadism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Now, in general, as far as I can see, the technical people actually don't like using the word psychopathy or sociopathy. They talk about antisocial traits. There you go. Anyway, I'm not an expert in any of this. I'm just reading a lot about it. Mostly, like I'm not reading at the core scientific paper level. Occasionally, but usually not. Because I don't have time. I did all that for my hematology stuff. Anything I published, I read every single darn paper. God, it's exhausting to see if actually what people quote and put in the reference is actually in the paper, and you'd be surprised. You would be surprised. So to really do evidence-based research takes incredible amount of work and time. And God bless all the people who are still doing it. Very important. And I hope the International Society of Thrombosis and Hemostasis meeting was happening in Washington this week. I think it's finishing up today, 21st to the 24th, I think. And I'll hear about it from one of my very good friends who was an organizer, and I hope it was very successful. But honest to the Lord, so 10 years ago, if you asked me what to predict I would be doing now, I would have said I was probably going to be trying to go to ISTH in Washington. Because, between 1986 and 2016, I regularly traveled to American Society of Hematology meetings or Association of Haemophiliac Clinic Directors of Canada meetings. I was a founding member from 1992. And then Thrombosis Canada, that was firstly known as the Thrombosis Interest Group. I was also a founding member of that until 2016. And members of the Thrombosis Canada were all going to ISTH, and I'm sure there were AHCDC people meeting there. And then there was also THSNA, Thrombosis Hemostasis Society of North America. I'm sure they were having a meeting too. So there's all these meetings that I would try to go to. Now, I try to go to the national Canadian meetings every year, and I pretty well did. The international meetings, I would go sort of alternate years, and that because, first of all, I always worked with other people, and we had to take turns to travel because somebody had to stay and look after all our patients. And then, of course, there's cost, so there's time, very expensive, all this travel, the costs, and then my family. So, I only went to some of the meetings. I didn't go to all the meetings. And mostly I didn't get to, ISTH was on in Japan after that terrible, terrible tsunami where all the people died. And I did have an abstract accepted. I was really trying to go to just support the Japanese at the terrible time. But there was absolutely no way I could, with whatever was going on at the time. Especially after 2006, my husband was ill, so that was I was trying to travel as little as I possibly could. Anyway, that's all that. But what I want to get on to is that there is now a science of altruism, compassion, and kindness, but there's not a lot of good science on peace. You know that? We're really lacking on how you convert a militant warring society to a peaceful society. And uh, now Enzo is coming to show his beautiful face to you, and he wouldn't do that earlier. Hello, gorgeous, hello, you beautiful dog. Yes, 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 yes. What are you looking for? You're looking for a drink. Yeah, I think I have to go with him now for a minute. He's looking for something. But I'm just saying, I would like 5% of our GDP to go into non-violence and to study how do you create a healthy, a psychologically, an ecological civilization. We need an ecological civilization, darlings. We don't need more military buildup. We don't need to poison more of the planet. You know, we've done a great job at that. And you know, darlings, all of you, there's something called the 9 planetary boundaries. If you haven't heard of that, just go look it up because there's a lot of science behind it. Now, people talk about 1.5 degrees and climate change uh, because the climate, very important, and very important for farming. Oh, sorry, gotta go here. I have to go. But anyway, the 9 planetary boundaries, we humans have bypassed 6 out of the 9, and the one we've done the worst on is all these toxic chemicals, and they're in the bombs that we're bombing. So all this bombing is contributing tremendously. Not only is it killing people and stressing people, making people ill, you know, messing up families, along with all these ice spoons with their masks. And these fellas wouldn't wear a mask. They literally, to save their lives, they would not wear a mask during COVID. Oh my God, when they're tearing families apart in Home Depots. Like, why are you attacking all the Home Depots in the US? Like, you're weird, guys. You're weird with your big masks on and driving around the country. Again, climate change. You're driving around. Are any of you in electric cars? No, you're driving around in your car, spewing gas, causing trouble, breaking up families, and I suppose somebody's paying you to do this dirty work. Disgusting. But uh, anyway, the point is that we're past the 9 planetary boundaries, and we need to think about that. That's where we need to be investing our money. I have to go look after Enzo right now, but I will be back again to talk about UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Oh, he's calmed down for a minute, so I can talk about UNDRIP. And I am going to just point out a letter I got today from a decolonization group. And let's see what they say about Canada. Yeah. So June is supposed to be Indigenous Peoples Month. And how many people are talking about this? So let's see. They say fires are raging across the north of Canada, true, with Indigenous communities facing the highest costs. What's new here? Yeah. Meanwhile, a deadly heat dome has settled over Ontario and Quebec. And by the way, people, please look after one another during the heat dome. Please check up on one another. Please make sure lots of people have water. Please make sure that, old people get help. Please make sure that their people aren't working outside without access to water. Please give people water. And do whatever you can to cool things down. And remember, dogs do not have any sweat glands. So that's why they pant, and you cannot leave your dog out when it's this hot. It'll kill them. So please, please, please be careful about people and dogs. And I don't know. I'm sure that it's not good for cats either. I don't know as much about cats, but anyway. So paradoxically, there's unseasonable cold, even snow across the prairies. So how are governments responding in Canada? Rollbacks of environmental protections. Yeah, now this is so cool. And people in America, you think you're the ones with tough. No, you are having a terrible time. There's no question. And there's nothing as bad as this yet in Canada. But don't you? But unfortunately, we have all the same stuff, potential stuff going on here. And we have a good old Doge North. And Doge North were ready to go into action. And they thought they would have the whole Canadian federal government dismantled in 3 weeks, which they probably would have because Canada is that much, geographically it's very large, but population-wise it's smaller and our federal institutions are not nearly as large as the US federal institutions. So we're not out of the woods yet, my darlings. No. And so there's a new hub, 8th Fire Rising, but I think that is on Instagram. And I'm I'm already trying to get people not to use Facebook because I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is a good person. I don't. No. And he's making a fortune off Facebook. And then he bought WhatsApp and he didn't buy it. No, but his company, Meta, that he is the majority shareholder in, bought, they own WhatsApp. No, the other thing, Instagram. So Zuckerberg owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. Now I'm having enough trouble with my mighty. So I bought and paid for a mighty network, and I'm sure the people who own that would love to sell it to one of these wealthy billionaires that are wrecking our planet. Not because they want to do that. Most of the people who develop these apps and things are all lovely people. They're trying to solve a problem and they love technology and they're working away on their little app and they're trying to make it better all the time and they're always playing with it and tinkering with it and never leave anything alone. These little engineers, but they're all doing it for good reason. It's only like the people like Zuckerberg and then Peter Thiel, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, and their buddies, but Thiel is behind Palantir. Thiel gave us Trump 1.0. Thiel gave us Brexit. He's just a gift that God keeps on giving. Thiel, oh my God. Anyway, and Palantir now, of course, he's making a fortune on Palantir. Really bad stuff, disgusting stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I will be calling my my senator. My friend Dr. Mo Ravelli is one of our senators, and he's a lovely man. And I'm not sure where he would stand on any of this, but I will be calling Dr. Ravelli because we had our own big horrible bill pushed through the Parliament in Canada in called Bill C5 with all sorts of stuff in it that attacks science and Indigenous rights. Now, the whole thing about it, darlings, is that biodiversity is just as important for us to continue living and living healthy lives as is the climate, right? We need biodiversity. And guess what? The most biodiverse parts of the planet are the parts of the planet that are still under Indigenous control. And there's also a link in between Indigenous languages. It's all interlinked. And so, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People would be very good for every single one of us. Because Indigenous people and our ancestors were not all idiots. They understood things like we need clean water to drink, not water filled with these poisonous PFAs like in Torbay. Of course, in our modern society, there was a big meeting recently. A lovely lawyer has got a class action thing going. And what has got people moving? Well, it's somehow or other, people are very concerned that the value of their properties, of their houses, will go down. And believe you me, I understand that. Houses are a big thing and property is a big thing. But somehow or other, there is this disconnect about the fact that these poisonous chemicals are linked to cancer and endocrine disorders, infertility, neurological disorders, all kinds of horrible illnesses, cardiovascular disease. Yeah. And the more we learn, the more we discover, because none of them are natural and they're all toxic things. Yeah. So, so the indigenous idea that you actually protect your air, protect your water, protect your land, protect the plants, and protect our animal kin, because it's in all our best interests, is actually highly intelligent. The people that are considered primitive, maybe, or a lot wiser, or certainly wiser than the people who do rebel news. I mean, again, people in America, if you think your problems are only in America, I don't mean they aren't real and terrible. They are, but I'm just saying, like you have a look at this rebel news. I just came across that on YouTube last night, and they were announcing this channel 14. I don't know who the heck they were, but they were announcing that the Governor General of Canada had announced that there was something wrong with the last election in Canada. It's all total. I don't know how this can be. Totally fake. And that now Mark Carney was being had to give up. He was leaving Parliament, and Polyev was taking over. This is Canada, Canadians. I don't know, it's a bot, or Russians, or whatever. But it was, there's a bunch of Canadians talking this utter rubbish, and it's something called Rebel News. It's just I don't know, an illness for sure, some sort of a very strange illness. Anyway, so I will stop now, my darlings, and I will say good night, everybody. Kulasov, sleep well. Hopefully, we'll talk again tomorrow. But I think, 1934 was a big year. That was when Hitler came to power and started his reign of terror, which Trump is copying. It was also the year that Friedrich Hayek published a book called The Road to Serfdom, which unfortunately was copied by, somebody in Montreal had the idea of putting it into the Reader's Digest, and that book has influenced so many people in North America, and it's neoliberalism, which does not work. It doesn't work economically, and it's actually not an economic system. It's actually all designed as a system to create elitism and authoritarianism and to normalize this. So it's very unfortunate. Now, more importantly than mentioning this creepy Hayek is Joseph Stiglitz, who is a living, brilliant economist last year. And I wish he'd done this before, but he came out with a wonderful book called The Road to Freedom, which, as a Nobel Prize winning economist, explains how, yes, of course we need a capitalist system. We can't have chaos, but we need one with checks and balances and regulation, and one that is designed to work for the common good, not to siphon off all the wealth to 0.1% of the planet who are total lunatics. Anyway, Thiel is a lunatic. Musk. And unhappy lunatics. They're miserable. Oh, gosh. Oh, anyway. Yeah, sorry. But the book that people should be looking at is Joseph Stiglitz's book. Yeah. Which is The Road to Freedom. And, how we make an economy that works for everybody. And I have to get on to that, Ben, that Canadian economist, to talk about that. But also, as I was saying, yes. So, yes. And then the person who developed the GDP, I have to check his name now, was a brilliant Russian American, and Kunitz, I think Simon Kunitz. Yeah. And I could be wrong with that. Correct me, feel free. But he spent his entire life, he published how to calculate the GDP in 1934, and he was just using it to try and see how in the 30s, somehow or other, America managed to not fall between either communism and authoritarianism that way, or populism and authoritarianism the other way, or like the fascism, and all these things were bubbling around everywhere. And that's the way ideas do bubble around everywhere. And the crazy ones seem to really bubble to the top. So, like the neo-fascism and now this neoliberalism. Oh dear God. Anyway, yeah. Couldn't. Yeah, he spent the rest of his life explaining to people that the GDP should never be used to measure the economy, and this is our problem because it includes wasting all our money on these polluting bombs and things that don't wars do not solve anything. They don't solve anything. They just make people sick. And it's not just the people who die under the bombs, not just those poor little Palestinian children being blown to bits in Gaza, which is just beyond horrific. Not just that. It's not just the blowing to bits, which is horrific. The bombs do horrific things. But the people who make the bombs, everybody who's exposed to these chemicals, have an increased risk of cancer. Look at poor President Biden's son. He died because he was involved with these toxic, whatever that they were doing in Iraq. And the Fallujah, the leukemia, the children's cancer rate is through the roof. I don't know, hundreds of times what it was before. So all these poisons are poisons. I'm poisoning everybody. Plus, seeing horrible violence is very bad for human health. People who witness horrible violence, civilians, it decreases, unless they receive good therapy, it decreases their lifespan very significantly. Yeah. And the sons of men, American men, who were mistreated and imprisoned and starved during the Civil War, their sons died young through epigenetic effects. So all this ghastly stuff is really bad for our health. Really bad for our health. And as a physician, I don't approve at all. Not at all. None of it. Anyway, you are. Close off. Have a good night.